Good morning YouTube and the internet. Today I'm going to be using these thingies here to clean up the brakes so we don't get these rotors stuck again, and also because the car sat here for so long with the rotors and the weather, I need to clean up the face on the discs as well. Since it's late in the afternoon, I'm going to work on the hub first, because I can always take the brake rotor into the shed and work on them there if the light gets a bit light, a bit dark. If the light gets dark. Anyway, let's get started. So if you remember, when I had to take this brake rotor off, it was stuck fast onto the hub. Now, I did oil the hub a little bit and got oil on it when I had it out. But to stop this hub from rusting on there again, we're going to clean this up. Mostly this area. This is pretty clean. But once we clean this up, I'm going to clean the rotor up. Then we're going to reinstall it with anti-seize. I've also got new pads to stick in, and we'll get this thing back and ready to roll and start towing the race car to events. So I've got this nice small one here, so I can get in between the studs. It's a bit easy with two hands. Get between the studs and the hub. I'll continue with two hands. I think that's enough example. So as you can see, now the hub looks nice and clean, nice and shiny. Using a different combination, I had to use this one to get in behind the studs. Use this one for most of it, and this one for a couple of small holes, areas that I couldn't get the other two in. But all in all, that's very clean, nice and tidy. It's not ready, it's not finished, but I've got to do the rotor next. But before I do that, I've got to go and do the other hub. So now I'm in the shed with these very rusty rotors from being left outside. I've got them flipped over so you can see the actual surface is really quite good. These are not worn at all. Now I'd say that the rear brakes weren't doing anything except the pads are worn out, so they were. And for those wondering, this is the surface that the handbrake grabs onto when it expands. When you've got a handbrake, drum brake and disc brakes for your normal brakes on the rear. Now I'm just going to clean these up, the face, this surface and in here. I'm not too worried about this outer hub area. It doesn't do anything, but this hole needs to be cleaned up because that's where it was rusted onto the hub, and the back area here needs to be nice and tidy, and it's pretty much the same as before, except we'll be using this one to clean them up. We've got a nice big flat surface, so and that's what they look like after a few seconds. Pretty good. Lovely. Now for the drum section, I like to use one of these flat wheels. Very lightly, clean it up. And the last bit we're going to hit, now it's all nice and tidy, is this face here that rests on the hub. We're just going to give that a quick clean again with this one. not the last thing. The last thing we're going to do is that inner surface where it was bound onto the hub with this one again. Very gently. We're not removing material, we're just trying to get any surface rust or crap off. So now that's clean enough to go back on the car. I'll wipe all my handprints off the rotor surface just before I put it on. You probably can't see because the camera's pointing over here instead of over here. But yeah, for the time being that is sufficient. And on this really rusty one, I've got a really rusty bit. Show you how long it takes on a really rusty bit. It's really not that long. So that's already got it to that, which is about good enough. But what I might do is just chuck this one on and go around there quickly just to knock off the real loose rust first, because this wears down pretty quick. Now that my battery's charged again, I can finish this one off. Went flat. Now that side to go. So that's that one. It only takes a couple minutes and they're nice and tidy and they're good to go. Before I take this one out, I found this was actually pretty handy on the rotor as well, on the other one. Sort of if I've got it at the right angles. Pretty good first pass, and then finish it with this one. There we have it, 2 clean rotors. So before we get sticking these rotors on, we are going to apply some nickel based anti-seize to the hub, mainly around the centre here where it was rusted before. Don't worry too much if you get it other places, it's not a problem. Now I have heard someone or seen someone in the comments say you shouldn't do this because it'll fling out and get to the brakes. It won't, it's just not liquid enough. And if you don't put too much on, it physically can't do it because there isn't enough volume for the centrifugal force to take effect. Now, remembering this has to screw in, so this can only go one way. Voila! Slip straight on. Now before we go any further, I'm going to look at the handbrake and see if I can adjust that with the rotor on. If not, I have to keep taking it off and on. It doesn't look like I can. Because of the hole position. Yeah, that's pretty much in line. So normally you can get a screwdriver in and flick it, but a couple of reasons you can't. That's in the way, and that's where that hole lines up in there, so you can't physically get. Let's see if I can do it there. That's the general concept. You just ratchet it around 1 or 2 teeth at a time. I suppose in theory I could do it like that, but since I got the rotor off anyway, what I'm going to do is just release it to the point it stops the rotor going on. I think that's squeezing it in. Get a couple of teeth that way. Effectively, what I want to do is expand this to the point where the rotor can't go on, and then just adjust it in a tiny bit until the rotor just slips over it. That way the handbrake shoe, which looks like it's not been doing anything, will be very close to the drum, and therefore shouldn't take much cable to pull to actually engage it. So just now I can just squeeze that on. What I'm going to do is back that off just a fraction. So that's just a tiny amount too much. So that's easy to do that way. Maybe 2 turns, 2 grabs, and backing myself. I'm going to put this around the right way. Oh, that's still just a fraction too tight. This way. Now I do expect some resistance getting it on because there's a little bit of a lip. But as long as once it's on, there we go. That's lovely. That is in place. Now we just need to replace this screw that holds the rotor in place until you get your wheels on. And that's all it does. You do want it fairly tight because when the wheel comes on it's going to squeeze that in. You don't want that shaking loose. It will only rattle out to the back of your hub, but if you take your wheel off it might slip out, fall out, and you might regret it because you might not notice it. Just wipe off any excess anti-seize. And we are golden now. In the future this rotor will be as easy to take off as I just did now, put on and off. So time to do the other side. So to give you an idea how worn those pads are, that's one of them there. These are the new ones. I think that should give you a fairly good indication. Now they all have these on them, so there's no inside or outside. What we need to do is push the piston back. Let's get a bigger bar. There are tools you can buy to depress these. Usually not too difficult. It's just about getting the right angle, which I'm finding very difficult to do with the way that brake line is. I'll try it here where you can't see, where I can get something solid. So once you got your piston depressed, what I did was I chucked the old pads back in there, just got the bar in and gently squeezed it. It just took a little while to get it started. Once I started moving it, depressed just fine, and now we should be able to put this straight on, like so. and any small amount of misalignment shouldn't be a drama. Should be able to just squeeze it across the rotor. There we go. Slip straight on. That's right. You got to have the bolt in the bottom one before you get it in there, otherwise it won't clear the shock. Alright, let's go get my ratcheting ring spanner, get them nipped up. Make sure not to forget your bung for your hole that you can't use to do your brake drum adjustment. Yeah, on a lot of cars it's pretty easy to see through that hole. I don't know why it's difficult on this model. Ford being Ford, I suppose. But yeah, so in theory, once you've done all that, theoretically you don't even need to bleed your brakes. I'd recommend you do, just because you're already here, but because you haven't actually opened the nipple or let any air in or out, it's not necessarily a step you want to do. You have to do, but I would recommend doing it. And also, because I had these axles out, I also have to do the diff oil again, top that up, and you're good to go. So this thing's now ready to be taken for a test drive, which I can't do because it's not registered anymore, because it sat here for so long I let the rego run out. That's how long it's been since I actually pulled the axles out. I had lots of stuff going on and it just ended up not a priority. Now it is a priority. Race car's ready to go. I need this going and registered to tow the race car, so it's now my priority, which is why I spent the last 2 weekends out here getting this done. Okay, well that's job done. The last thing I just did, and I didn't film it because it's kind of hard to film and do it at the same time, is I just started the car, put it in gear, and just applied the brakes a few times. So applying throttle and brake, and you can see the rotor face is cleaned up really clear. I've looked at the inside, it's nice and even. It's the same on both sides. So as far as the brakes engaging to stop it unloaded, they do that no problem. That's all I can test, at least until I actually get the wheels on it and get it out the door. But I've got to do the diff oil first. I've shown you how to do that. I've got a video on how to do that already. So yeah, that's that job complete, and I'm very happy. Apart from that bat shit on the quarter panel, I'm reasonably happy. There's a whole mess of crap here, tools I left out. I was really not in a good headspace when I started this job, and as a result I sort of did a lot of stuff half-assed, as far as, you know, putting tools away and stuff like that, because I just didn't feel motivated, and now I'm paying the price. Feel much better now, but right at the moment when I did all this, yeah, I've got a lot of rusty tools I've got to clean up now. And you see I haven't mowed the yard. The reason I didn't mow the yard is because the axles were open. I didn't want grass clippings and shit going up the axles and getting in the diff. So I finished the job I can't tell you about. Got all that done. Lots of delays on that, some of which my fault. I could have mitigated a lot of it by just doing stuff sooner when I could have, but I didn't. Basically started everything too late, which caused further delays. And once I got that done, I've got this finished. The Corolla's next for the distributor seal. Full rebuild on the seals and the shaft seal going into the head. So that's next on the channel, as far as I'm aware. But yeah, now I just got to get this thing regoed again. It'll pass roadie, no problem, and get it re-registered, and then get the Corolla done, then go racing. I'm working again, by the way. I've been working for the last 3 weeks. So again, casual gig, short term. It was supposed to be 4 days, and it's been extended to 4 to 6 weeks. So hopefully that'll keep extending for a little while, at least while this coronavirus stuff's around. because there's not too many full-time gigs going, and the ones that are going are very competitive because there's a lot of project estimators aren't doing a lot. So a lot of them are taking a lot less money. In fact, one place where I applied, where I think they said I was the second choice, but basically the money I was after was more than what they were paying their estimating manager, and I would have been working under him. Now I would have taken the job at less money, all things considered, at you know, in the middle of coronavirus, economic downturn and all that, but I didn't get it, and I landed this other gig a couple months later. So I've been without work for a few months, and now I'm working again, so I'm really happy about that, and going to keep moving forward and get this race car on the road. Now that I'm working, I'm willing to spend the money I got in the bank on taking the car to the track day, taking it back to the tuner, getting the power run done. It wasn't a case where I was going to starve. Much luckier than a lot of people in the current situation in the world. It doesn't mean you don't get stressed or worried about it, but when you put it into perspective internationally, I'm very, very lucky. I've also worked very hard to be very lucky, but I've had the opportunity to work very hard to get lucky, if you understand what I'm saying. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling. Basically, instead of reserving my savings, because now I can top my savings back up with the work, I'm happy to spend some of it on taking the race car out, get that done, get that finished. As far, the only thing it needs is a couple hours on the dyno, not even a couple, yeah, maybe 2 hours tops for the power run. I do want to take it for one more run, a bit longer. Now that I fixed the misfire, was not the coils, it was literally the number 3 injector plug wasn't seated properly. So I replaced coils and it kept happening still, and I troubleshot stuff, and I swapped coils out of 3 into 2 and 2 into 3, new ones, old ones, and it just kept missing on number 3. And then I went to disconnect the injector to do a spark test, a physical spark test with a coil out. And I didn't want the fuel, you know, coming through, because I didn't want a fire. And when I pulled it, I didn't have to squeeze it, it just slipped off. So I slammed that back on hard, and boom, away she went, on all 6 again. So I made sure that was seated, I made sure the rest was seated, and yeah, that's all it was. That's that little misfire. So we're good to go on the race car. Anyway, I think I've bored you long enough. Enjoy your evening, enjoy your weekend, enjoy Bathurst. That's tomorrow. I'm going to edit this real quick and get that uploaded. So everyone won't watch it tomorrow because they're all going to be busy watching Bathurst. And if you're watching this instead of Bathurst, pause it. Don't close the window. Pause it. Go watch Bathurst. Then come back and watch the rest of this. Although you're at the end of this now, so go watch it. Go watch Bathurst. Quick.